Okay, we're live. Welcome to the Virgin Authors. We are three friends bonded by our love of writing and struggling to navigate the publishing world. Today, our third musketeer, Jana, can't be with us, but she's here with us in spirit. You can find us on our website and social media platforms, or here we're live the third Thursday of every month, and we'll be chatting about writing craft, conferences, queries, publishing, promotions. Really, we talk about it all. I'm Lissa Reese, and I'm a Virgin author.
Hi, I'm Mandy McGuire. I am pleased to introduce our guest tonight, our friend, Rebecca OLMSTEAD. I met Rebecca through our friend Jana, who met Rebecca and her daughter through a Story Summit group. Rebecca has been just a valuable member of our writing support group for, I don't even know how long now, a year, 2 years? Like it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And we've met on Zoom many times. Rebecca writes in multiple genres, including inspirational, mystery, short story, and essay. Whatever genre she's working in, she loves creating memorable characters and inspiring her readers to think outside the box. Rebecca has been published in Live Magazine, Focus on the Family's Clubhouse, Upper Room, Houseboat Magazine, and her own ministry website. She lives in southeastern Washington with her husband and the youngest of 5 children. And when she's not writing, you'll find her gardening, hiking, camping, and working her magic with needlecraft. We're so excited to have you. Thank you for coming, Rebecca.
Thank you for having me.
Yay!
Yay, this is exciting.
It feels like we've known you forever, and yet I haven't met you in person yet.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
Many things we want to
Yeah.
know about how you work, and I hope you'll tell us a little bit about your process. And I imagine writing mystery is completely different from an essay or a inspirational story. And I'm curious if you work on multiple things at the same time, or if you'll finish one book before you go on to your next project. How do you do it?
I do. I actually publish books for the ministry, which are nonfiction, Christian. And so I'm usually working on one of those and a mystery at the same time. And then I usually have a short story going for recess. So yes, I do. And I try to vary, what I published. So far, I've published 3 Christian nonfiction, but this fall, I'll be releasing my first in my mystery series, which has been years in the making. So I'm excited about that, but I have written 2 more in the series. They just need to go through the editing process. So
this is a fictional mystery series.
yes.
And I imagine you bring inspirational messages into your fiction as well. And I'm curious how you find a balance there between inspiring people and broadening the audience so that people who maybe aren't particularly religious will still be interested in the books. I
approach my fiction as mainstream, in that most mysteries that I've read, and usually in cozies, there's some aspect of faith or religion. They attend a church or whatever. In my series, the main character has a gift, a spiritual gift of prophetic dreaming. And so in that, she's it's not working the way she wants it to work or thinks it should work. So in her life, she's struggling with her relationship, her faith, and this gift, and trying to make sense of it, and trying to learn to just let go and let it happen instead of being in control. So I weave the faith part into it with the people she runs into. I try not to get on a soapbox, but just through her relationships and the things that she faces and the choices she has to make, And because she was raised in a church, but like a lot of people raised in a church, there comes a time when they, struggle with the meaning of it and
Outright
their purpose.
rejection for a while.
And this is in your mystery.
Yes.
Yes. So you do weave them just because that's who you are and what you write. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I wanted to write. I was just tired of picking up mysteries and being, just confronted with horrible language and, main characters that just hop from bed to bed. And I just thought, you know what, I'll just write my own. So it's clean fiction.
Yeah.
And it's not in your face Christianity, but that aspect is there. And my character is learning to find out who she is and what she was meant to do with her life while, solving mysteries.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, full disclosure, I am actually serving as a beta reader for Rebecca on this mystery story, and I vouch for everything she said. There is no in-your-face Christianity about it, and the kind of struggles she has are very mainstream struggles, except of course she's got this mystical gift, which
yes.
But you used a term cozy mystery, and I wonder if you'll define that for us.
In a cozy mystery, it will usually take place in a small town setting. There's absolutely no sexual content. There is no foul language. In fact, I'm writing a short mystery story for an anthology that will be coming out. And all the stories have to do with weddings. And I think they decided to call it Mayhem, Matrimony, and Murder. And
Nice.
yes. And they just had a huge discussion amongst all of the authors on, well, what do you mean by foul language? Well, cozy readers don't want that. And so it's a little more lighter, and reality is kind of fluid, and there may be an aspect of baking. It may be like a chocolate shop, or it may be sometimes they have pets, that play a big role in the stories. And it's just a nice, relaxing read and usually a quick read that's, just lifts you up and maybe makes you chuckle.
And you won't be embarrassed for your children or your parents to see you reading it.
Right. Right.
Can you go further too, for those who don't necessarily know the difference? Like, what's the difference between a mystery and a thriller?
Okay, in a mystery, especially in cozies, you'll have usually an amateur sleuth, and you will kind of walk through the mystery with them and gather the clues and try to solve the mystery along with that person. With a thriller, what happens is often you'll see the point of view of the killer or what have you, and you'll know up front who's doing this, and then you'll see the detective side. And so it'll be like a cat and mouse kind of chase that keeps you on your toes, so yeah.
In both, in the mystery, like you just alluded to, like in a thriller, maybe the reader knows what, who did it. It would not necessarily a crime or a mystery, but in the mystery, can it go either way? Can the reader know, or does the reader always have to be like on the path with the amateur sleuth?
Now, readers of cozies usually like to figure out who did it. Whodunits, they're called. And so there's usually quite a few suspects in the story, that come in and out, and red herrings and false clues, and to keep the reader guessing. And they like that. And they like to try and figure out, oh, I know that the butler did it, and they want to be able to say at the end, I knew it. I knew she was the killer,
So you say amateur sleuth. So they maybe don't even know that this is what's that there's a mystery coming, that or maybe in a series they stumble across the first one and then they go looking for them. I mean, how is it working in your series?
Well, in my series, I have a reluctant sleuth. She has a history in her youth as having dreams, and has been able to talk to people and tell them things that help them find, objects, or help them find missing people, or something like that. But after she loses her parents, her dreams disappear for a time, and then they come back, and they have more symbolism, and they are kind of like riddles. So she needs people around her to help her untangle them. But she doesn't want to be involved with crime and have to have this gift. It's the whole series is going to be a process of her learning that, you know what, you have this, and now your dreams are tied to helping people find loved ones, find out, who murdered their loved one, and bring them peace.
Mm.
And so she has to come to grips with that. And most amateur sleuths, I've read a few where, like one I read, there was a group of grandmas, and they went out sleuthing. If they read of a murder in the paper, they, put their Sherlock Holmes hats on, and they were,
That's fun.
going after. And the law enforcement in the town is usually frustrated with, because they don't like people interfering in their work. But for the most part, they come upon a mystery, a dead body in the bakery or whatever. And then after that, they just become very dangerous people to be around, because people keep dying around them in each book, and they don't have to, but they can't resist,
That's so fun. So talk a little bit more about, because you write in multiple genres. So
Yes.
how do you kind of keep that straight in your head? How do you do you focus on one project at a time? I know Lisa kind of started with that question, like, what's your process? Do you go back and forth? Is it by inspiration, what's coming out, or how do you fit it all in?
Yes. Well, currently I'm working on my short story for the anthology. And I'm, of course, working on revisions for my mystery. But the anthology has a deadline, so that will come first. But I'm also working on my nonfiction, because I need to have it ready to go after the mystery comes out. And so, yeah.
And you also put out a newsletter.
Yeah.
How often do you do that?
Oh, I really try to do once a month. In the past, I've been really bad about it. But then when, more publishing started happening, and then I got excited, and I thought, oh, well, I have a few subscribers, so I can tell them what's happening, and that I'm just not sitting and watching soap operas and eating bonbons all day, but I'm actually working. And because as writers, we think, oh my gosh, this is so dull. Who would want to be, reading about what I do? But after being in a few sessions in conferences, I found that readers want to know about you. They want to know, what do you do in your spare time, And so, yeah, I have a website, that I have a blog, and then I have my galleries where I showcase my gardening in one, I showcase my crochet in another, and our adventures on the road, and things like that, because I realize I'm an introvert. So, I tend to just want to keep to myself, but readers really want to know about you.
Well, it's true. And I think writing is one of those occupations that people who don't do it don't understand it, don't know a lot about it. And I certainly didn't really become a writer until late in life. And so I've never personally known a published author. So now, after a few years of doing this and going to conferences and networking with people and having these support groups and trying to put together this group of virgin authors, people who are in the same boat as us, making a community. I have a whole shelf on my bookshelf that's almost overflowing now. That's authors that I personally know. And most of the books are autographed and
Yeah.
And it's really exciting. And
Super fun.
Yes.
yeah, and I am a writer. So for people who aren't writers, I imagine even more so that they just really kind of want that inside scoop on their favorite author.
Absolutely. Yeah. They want to be able to relate to you, especially when they invest in your world, in the world you create in the books. And eventually I will have a website just dedicated to the mystery series. And one of the characters will have a blog of her own that will talk about that world.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
And I just got this dream when I started working on this series that it's, the main hub of it is in a fashion boutique called Belle Femme, beautiful woman. And part of their work through this boutique is once a year they have a fashion show. They host a fashion show, and they have the wealthy women in the town donate last year's fashions, and then they have this sale that benefits women who are coming out of difficult situations, that are coming out of abuse and drug use and getting rehabilitated. And they help, they donate to these programs that give them self-esteem and the clothing and the training and what they need to get their lives on track. So part of that website I'm planning is having a boutique online where women can create fashion or jewelry or art or whatever and sell, and that the income from that will go to some women's funding for women's programs.
What a wonderful idea.
Great. Talk about inspirational, Rebecca.
That's really cool. So talk a little bit about, so remember, our audience is kind of other virgin authors like us. So how have you been able to build that readership and to have your newsletter and be able to reach people?
Yeah. How did you get those first few subscribers?
It was hard, especially for an introvert, because, and I know I'm not the only one, but you have a tendency to say, who wants to read what I write? Who wants to listen to me? And so it was very hard to reach out, and I conferences for that too, because I just went to so many conferences and had so many authors telling me, you have to do this, you have to reach out. And so it started with friends, and friends have friends, and so on and so forth. And so it just began to grow. It's not huge, but it's I get feedback from them that really encourages me. And so I would tell every author, virgin or not, get yourself out there and share what you have. You got to believe in yourself first, and then find like-minded people and people who read what you write on social media. You can find groups of people and say, hey, I've got this book coming out, and would somebody like to be a beta reader, or and let them get to know you and participate in group discussions. And before you know it, somebody will ask a question and you'll say, hey, I can answer that. I know how to help that person. And you just make connections that way.
Yeah, that's great. And I've noticed too, for a little while, when I have gotten any kind of newsletters out, it's nice to help promote each other. So there's other
Yes.
authors who will promote you or your
Yes,
blog or your books or whatever you're working on in, in exchange, so that you'll help promote them too, because they're all their own independent businesses,
absolutely.
self-published or traditional published. There's so much work that goes into everything around publishing
Right.
that, the support that I found with just meeting people has been like the nicest thing. Like, people are so generous with their time and their thoughts and their support for each other.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, once you get out of your shell and step out, I mean, it takes me weeks to recover from a conference, but I never regret it, because, stepping out, introduce yourself, start up conversations, and you'll be amazed how many people, are looking for a friend too. And when you start helping each other and putting out their books, then they're happy to put your books out there, and everyone has connections. But it's more than that. You have friends that know what you're going through. And so, you always, it's a different family. It's a new family.
It truly is.
Yeah.
And like the Tuesday, Thursday Zoom support family that we've had for a couple of years, I feel that way too. Like, it's a family that actually understands what you're going through when you tell them something that you've worked on, or something that was exciting, or something that's challenging, where family or friends really don't understand. They don't have that
Right.
same empathy for what you're going through.
Yeah, especially rejection letters
Oh.
or emails now. Emails now. I have a drawer full
Brutal.
of actually printed, mailed rejection letters.
Been doing this a while.
Yeah.
How
It's
long have you been writing?
Oh boy. I think I started writing as soon as I could pick up a pencil, but it was I think I was about 9 years old when I said, books transport me. I want to do that. I want to transport people. And so I went into my grandfather's office, and he had this old typewriter. There's one right behind me. I think that old Royal. And it was one that my mom had taken to college. And I found her old college typing book. And I said, well, if I'm going to be an author, I need to learn to type. And I taught myself to type.
Wow.
And I started my first novel, which never got finished. And I wrote my first short story when I was 17. And it was like opening a vein. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'll never be able to write a whole novel. That was so hard. And I have a lot of short stories now because, writers have to write. I get reminded, my daughter, my beautiful daughter, Carolyn, one day she said, when you're not writing, you're grumpy, Mom. You need to go write, And now she's a writer, and she says, oh, I've been so grumpy lately and I haven't been writing. I need to go write, and it's therapy.
Yes. Well, and I've been so impressed at how faithful, how regimented you both are to write. Like, you write, and I don't know, but like, you can tell us, but you're writing all the time, every day, regular. How often do you guys write?
Yes, I write. We've had kind of a schedule. I homeschool her, or she homeschools herself mostly because she's 17. But while she does her school, I'm working on my writing. And then in the evening, she says, oh, it's 8:00. It's time to go write. And she will stay in here until 11 o'clock sometimes. And then she'll come in and she'll want to read what she's written, and her father and I are like, oh, okay. Can't it wait till tomorrow, dear? She'll get so frustrated, but I have been amazed, and I'm so proud of her from her diligence. She's looking forward to entering at the PNWA this year. And so
what category?
There's been many times where it's just been her and I, like
10:30
on Zoom, and I'm the one checking out and she's still going.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
It's inspiring.
Yeah, I haven't been on since I had my shoulder surgery. It was just because I write during the day. And so by the time it was time for writers group, my arm would ache so bad I couldn't go anymore. But
Oh my
yeah,
God.
she writes young adult sci-fi and fantasy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and we're almost out of time, but before we even go there, Lissa, I just have to tell you, you look amazing tonight. Like your coloring is perfect. The green looks amazing. I love the color of your hair. Like it's just all working. Like you look amazing.
Well, thank you very much.
True.
I
So
ran
beautiful.
upstairs and locked my dog in the bathroom and jumped in the shower. So
This is the fresh shower look. It's
It
beautiful.
works. It works.
you
It really, really
you
works.
see how supportive writers are of each other,
Absolutely.
always lifting each other up. But thank you.
That's right. That's right. Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I mean, we're running out of time. It just runs so quickly.
Please do join the Virgin Authors here on Facebook. We are live on the third Thursday of every month. And if you watch for news of our bonus editions and special giveaways on our website at virginauthors.com, we're going to be starting a new giveaway program. So you'll want to tune in live and keep an eye on the website and see where that's going, because I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Very cool.
Thank you for tuning in. Rebecca, if somebody wants to pick up one of your books, is it just RebeccaOLMSTEAD.com?
Yes, you can find me there, and you can find me on Amazon. Or
Fantastic.
actually any of your, ebook vendors that you like, whichever one you prefer. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing and coming on. We appreciate your friendship so much.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
I hope I get to see you in September at PNWA.
Oh, you will.
Hopefully
Yeah.
we'll have another nice group, and you guys will be, you and Carolyn will be there, and maybe
And we'll be
finalists.
rooting for Carolyn to win the contest.
Yes.
It'll be very
Yes,
fun.
absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.